Anyone who's holding shame around past experiences with sex, around expressions of sex, like, you're welcome here. I can't be an authority on women's health and also be sexual.
You and I have the same exact wounding. I'm right there with you. I am right there with you.
And so, just like a good little Catholic girl, my sex was private with my partner only, never even wanted people to know that I enjoyed it.
Have a conversation about what sex means to you in the relationship. What does sex mean to you personally? How do you interpret it? What is the value of it? What's the reward you're getting out of it?
I can't be taken seriously and be in my full sexual power at the same time.
Your sexual aliveness is no different than your joy, no different than your turn on, no different than your free self-expression, no different than your creativity. They are all the same. They are all coming from the same place, which is the most pure expression of your aliveness.
Welcome to the Women Wellness Podcast. I'm your host, Usha Nandi, and you're in the right place if you're looking to heal yourself as a woman, not just for you, but for all the women who came before you and all the women who will come after. Learn ancient practices, hear vulnerable stories that remind you you're not alone and you're definitely not crazy, and tap into the bravery that it takes to be an undomesticated woman in the world we live in today. I was certain that I've hit my threshold of vulnerability by dancing online on the internet in a vulva hat, but it turns out I was actually wrong. The most vulnerable thing I can do and have done yet is this episode with Hannah Johnson, where I talk openly about my sexual shame and my fear of being my full, unbridled, desirous, erotic self in the world. I made this episode for women who are afraid of their bigness, who are afraid of their fire. I mean, I've got 3 major signs in Leo and some big Scorpio placements. I am an intense woman. And for a long time, I've been trying to make myself smaller, more digestible, more palatable to fit in alignment with what I was taught growing up. So I know Hannah Johnson, our guest today from the Libido Fairy, from a very close friend. And when I got on, I told her, listen, I grew up Catholic. Me talking about sex online is breaking some major taboos. And you know what? That's what I'm here for, because at the Women Wellness Podcast, that's exactly what we do. As undomesticated women, as cycle breakers, we're here to change the story of our lineages. So when Hannah said, great, Usha, let's work with it. Let's do a session about your sexual shame so we can slay that shame and come into a more free expression. And I got to tell you, I was a little bit nervous, but I went for it. So I made this episode for women who are done playing small, for women who have shame around past experiences, for women who are ready to allow themselves to be turned on and fully alive, not just desirous for sex, but ravenous for life. Those are the kind of women that I want to work with. Those are the kind of women that I want to be friends with and have in my life. Little content warning here. Hannah and I do go into places where boundaries were crossed and we talk about sexual assault. So this probably isn't the best episode to listen to with children near or in a public place. And if you're already creating healing spaces like the one Hannah and I engage in your life with clients, but you want to expand your impact, you're going to love my brand new free workshop from one-on-one to group magic that's happening this Wednesday. This workshop, I'll break down for you how I went from 12-hour, 10-hour days, 3 months pregnant, seeing a full roster of clients, to less time in front of the computer, less time with clients, more free time to focus on what really matters, like keeping my bees or playing with my daughter, making potions in my kitchen, while expanding my impact. So I'll give you the 3 pillars that you can utilize to go from just a one-on-one practice to start expanding your impact, expanding your income, and creating more free time in this free session from one-on-one to group magic. If you want to join us, it's going to be so much fun. It's happening this Wednesday. Go to the show notes to reserve your spot, and I'll see you there. Thank you so much, Hannah, for coming on the Women Wellness Podcast. It's such an honor to have you here.
I'm super excited to chat with you today.
Well, we've already been having like so much fun before the recording started. And I was going through a lot of things in my head of like, what should I ask her about? Because for me, this topic comes up a little bit on my threshold. It's like I'm rubbing up against my own liberation here. And when I thought about bringing you on, I started to feel this feeling of like contraction and expansion because I realized unconsciously that I've kind of steered the conversation of women's health and womb reclamation far away from sex. It's like I'll talk about hormones, I'll talk about practices, I'll talk about Ayurveda, I'll talk about food, I'll talk about herbs, but rarely, especially publicly, do I ever talk about sex. And in my story, I grew up like really Catholic, really Catholic. And I can remember when I was 16, starting to wear shorter skirts and wanting to express myself. And I remember my dad shaming my body and shaming how I was expressing my sexual energy. And so that I think has kind of unconsciously stayed in me, even though I've known it, I've worked on it, and still that shame is here. So thank you so much for coming on and for also bravely sharing this conversation with the world. Thank you.
Yeah, you're so welcome. I mean, I like thank you back to you for being willing to confront something that 99% of the population won't, because it is vulnerable and it is really scary and it is a tender topic, especially if you have a background of shame or guilt or even just not talking about sex. It's a pretty taboo subject in most cultures. And so it's an honor to get to unveil this part of you to the world and normalize it and celebrate it and love up on it. It's going to be really fun.
Yeah, it's funny. We were talking about we're both Enneagram twos. And for anyone who doesn't know the Enneagram, like, please go take the Enneagram test. Like, I use it in my business and I'm like, thank you. And you're like, no, thank you so much. It's like, you really are.
Oh no, we're already tuning.
But really, if you haven't done an Enneagram test, go take it. It's so great for business, for interpersonal relationship, for partnership. I find it to be such an amazing tool. And just like back on my story, so I really want to welcome all the women who are listening to this because for me, even right now, and I would describe myself as a sexually liberated woman. Like I'm very comfortable talking about sex with myself, with my friends, with my partner, like now publicly with the world. Look at these edges we're expanding past. But it's like I still feel some discomfort. I still feel a little bit of activation as we go into this conversation. And you just brought up the piece around education. And I grew up in like a really liberal town and I had a really great education. And still, even with all that privilege and access, sex was never talked about. And I learned that sex meant penis and vagina. And it was like about penetration. And it was also about male orgasm. And so, Hannah, like I had sex for 5 years regularly without ever having an orgasm. How?
Me too.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Yeah, it's super, super common. And I think the main issue basically that you're pointing to is the way that we have learned to have sex and then are modeled on how to have sex is patriarchal and centered around male pleasure, just for the simple fact, for the most part, that historically sex was done to just procreate and or dominate, like men asserting domination over women and procreation. And so it makes sense that like the main way that we would have sex would be penis and vagina because that's the way that you make a baby. And it would also make sense that you didn't experience a lot of pleasure through most of your sexual experiences because penis and vagina intercourse is very pleasurable for a person with a penis because all of their most sensitive tissue is being stimulated through intercourse. Whereas for a woman who has a vulva, her experience of sex in intercourse, that intercourse is not the most pleasurable part of sex most of the time because her most sensitive tissue, which is the tip of the clitoris and the 1 to 2 inches around the vaginal opening that also involve the clitoral tissue, that is mostly not being stimulated during penetration. There's actually very few nerve endings inside the vagina itself because if there were a ton of nerve endings and a ton of sensitivity inside the vagina, childbirth would be the most excruciating thing on the planet, even more than it already is. So we're just busting in with the education right now. So yeah, essentially the reason why we continue to just see the same kind of sex played out in movies and television is also because most of those shows are produced by men. Most of those movies are produced by men. And so the examples that we're shown about how to have sex are going to, again, focus on the type of sex that is the most pleasurable to men. They've been in power for most of history. So it's so exciting to be at this time in history where these kinds of conversations are happening, where we can have conversations about, well, if penetration isn't the most pleasurable part of sex for women, and women aren't relying on men as much as we used to for protection and financial support, and actually we want to have more emotionally connected, pleasurable experiences in relationships with men, what does sex look like in that equation? Because it's going to have to look like something different than what we've historically been doing for that to occur. So
I'm so grateful for you to bring that up because it makes me think about like my first explorations of my body. And for women and really everyone in our culture, it's like patriarchy is like the air that we breathe. It's carbon dioxide, it's like oxygen. It's like it's there. You can't see it, but you're taking it in. And depending on the levels, it can be poisonous to your system. And so for me, like growing up in a really Catholic home and then growing up, in a colonial patriarchal culture, it's like I remember the way that I masturbated first was like I put a highlighter, like a pen, a highlighter in and out of myself over and over again. And I was literally like, is this supposed to be it? Like, this is the thing? Like, I was like, this is the main course. This is what like everybody wants. This is the thing. And there was very little pleasure, just like a lot of confusion. And then after that came the shame. And I think that it took me years, like more than 5 years, to actually learn about my anatomy as a woman. And that what was supposed to be the main course for me was just like a little appetizer, and wasn't even that exciting. And it took me learning about my body first to then be able to explain it to my partners. And I noticed that there was a lot there, a lot of pressure put on my partners to know me when I didn't even know me. And so I think that that's a really important, like the education piece. We always focus on that at Women Wellness because it's like, how are you going to explain to someone else if you yourself don't even know?
and it's about empowerment too, right? Like waiting. I mean, again, this just goes back to like the culture of how women and men relate to each other. There is a certain level of like waiting for a man to rescue me, waiting for my Prince Charming to come and figure it out. But there's so much power in understanding how your body works and looking at your anatomy and looking at your vulva and saying, I deserve pleasure and I don't need to wait for someone to come and rescue me and give that to me. I actually just deserve it and I can give it to myself and let me figure that out and have the knowledge and the self-awareness to be able to say, ooh, what does this button do? What does this button do? Oh, I like that. I don't like that. There's agency and autonomy and so much empowerment in being able to have a connection to your body that is so intimate in that way. And I really encourage anyone, if you have not taken a mirror and mapped your vulva and looked at all the parts and maybe pulled up a little visual anatomy of like what is a clitoris and like what is a vulva and where is the urethra and where is the vaginal opening and where are all these parts, and then map it to your own body and then explore it from a pleasure standpoint with yourself. Like it's one of the exercises we have all of our students do, and it's the one they dread the most out of all of it because there's so much what you're describing, shame in looking at your own body. They have stories about how their vulva is disgusting or bad or ugly, or maybe at some point they had a partner that looked at them and said something about them or how they smell, and there's just so much shame in that. But in that shame, there is also the seeds of liberation if you're willing to go into that. And so, yeah, it's juicy is a good word, I think.
I'm so glad to be having this conversation, Hannah, because like I'll be straight with you. Until about like a year or 2 years ago, whenever I would see stuff about like pleasure on Instagram or like people talking about like healing trauma with pleasure or like even that word juicy, like so many women in the womb health community are like, oh, juicy. I'd be like, just shut. Like, I would be so annoyed by it. Like, what are they talking about? Like, why just like rolling my eyes? Like, no, that's not like we have to do all these like somatic techniques. Like, it's not, no, you orgasm your way to $1 million. Like, all this stuff. I was always like, what are they talking about? And then my dear friend Christina, who has worked with Women Wellness since the beginning, she's now working with you. And she was telling me about the work retreat that she just went on with you. And she's like, we just like learned this dance and we had knee pads and it was just like this like slutty little dance and it was so empowering and we did it all together. And I was like, I need to talk to Hannah. I need to talk to her. Like, I think we need to hang out. And so I really had a lot of resistance, a lot of like, I can't be taken seriously and be in my full sexual power at the same time. I can't be an authority on women's health and also be sexual. I need to separate the two completely. And so, just like a good little Catholic girl, my sex was private with my partner only, never even wanted people to know that I enjoyed it. And it's like, so I come to you here like that. And before this, we were like talking, what should we do on this podcast? And you suggested that we like do a little back and forth working through sexual shame. And I was like, yeah, that's why we're here. And so I just kind of want to name that and also invite everyone in for any woman listening who has any resistance around awakening your sexual power, any resistance around expressing that sexual power in public. For me, that's scary. And also, anyone who's holding shame around past experiences with sex, around expressions of sex, like you're welcome here. I'm right there with you. And Hannah's here to share what she knows to support us and walk with us through that.
All right. So what I'm going to do next is I'm just going to walk Usha through some questions. I'm going to ask her some body sensing and some somatic questions just to help her start to create a little bit more integration between what she described as these two separate selves, her professional self over here and her sexual self on the other side, which for her, what she just described is that they're two separate things. And if for some reason these things start to touch each other and be integrated and combined, then something terrible is going to happen. And so we're going to work with that a little bit. So yeah, just want to thank you again, Usha, for your courage and willingness to do that.
Like, this is cycle breaking. We're just gonna like tell all my secrets to the world. Let's do it, Hannah. Let's go.
Okay, so I want to ask a couple sensation questions first. So when you tune in to the feeling that's happening in your body, that resistance that you're experiencing, where do you notice that?
So I notice it right now a lot of like feeling of contraction in my throat. And then there's also like a little bit, I am on day 2 of my period. So there's definitely energy there in my womb, but there's like an awakening in my womb and then like a feeling of like closing in my throat.
Okay, amazing. Great body awareness, great description.
No, I
Love that.
know.
And if you tune into the constriction that's there in your throat, I just want you to notice it, just being present with it for a few moments and just letting the air that's coming through your nose, just caressing that gently on the in and out. Just taking a couple breaths there. And you probably have a really good emotion vocabulary too. So if there were some emotions that you might notice behind the sensation, what might those be?
Yeah, so as I breathed with the sensation, it actually kind of dropped down a little bit into my heart and changed. And I would describe it to be what I thought was resistance, now that I've stayed with it, it actually has like turned into like a little bit of excitement. Like there's some like elation there. There's like a okay, let's do it. Like this feeling of an energy that's been kind of like dormant. That's like, let's go. I've been here. I'm ready.
Okay, amazing. That was so fast to move that energy for you. Um, if you could breathe a little bit more and bring that energy all the way down into your womb space, and you bring that breath into your womb space, into your lower belly. What is the sensation and activation like there in your lower belly?
It's like, have you seen Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone?
Hmm.
So it's like there's like this feeling of like in my belly, like there's the Sorcerer's Stone. Like everyone's obsessed with it and it's right there. It's like a lot of power right there. That's what
Mm.
it's like.
When the word power, when someone says the word power, what is the association for you with power? Like first, power is what does that feel like?
It feels like having the keys to the kingdom of like everything, like my queendom, like primordial life force energy, like not power over. It's like, welcome, darling. The secrets of the universe are about to be revealed. That's what it feels.
No. What bad thing might happen if you get the keys to the castle and the powers of the universe and all of this primordial power? What's the worst thing that might happen?
The feeling of losing everyone that I love. Yeah, and as I say that, there's like some tears. I'm not sure if they want to come, but it's like there's this like feeling of thinking about like my partner and like what is he gonna think if I have that much power, and will I be able to stay with him? Will I have to leave him? And then thinking about my dad and my family and like, are they still going to love me? Are they still going to accept me? And this feeling of my daughter, like, can I still be a good mom and be present and there and also have access to that much power? And so it's this like really big, like whoosh power, like going through all the land in this fear of like, once I open the keys to my queendom, then I have to lose everyone that I love. Will they be able to come with me?
I want you to tune into that part of you that's in there that's so afraid to lose everyone. Maybe a younger Usha and so afraid that she won't be loved if she's herself.
Yeah,
Mm.
I go back to this. I just did like a yoga nidra retreat, like went away for 7 days like a few months ago. And my like intention that entire time that I was feeding into my subconscious was, I am safe and I am allowed to shine, because it's so scary sometimes when I shine, and I have seen what that does to other people. And it's like, so I just like, okay, I won't shine anymore. I won't be my full self because I don't want to lose friends and I don't want to lose partners and trigger my partners. And when you're a powerful woman in this world, it can trigger fear in other people. And so there's some parts that like wanna keep me small so that at least I'll stay in connection with others.
Usha, you and I have the same exact wounding. I'm right there with you. I am right there with you. Um, I really would love if just for like maybe like just one more minute, if you could imagine that younger version of you, that little Usha that's like maybe been told that she can't be herself or has been shut down in that, or has even had people leave because of her being herself, whatever ages or versions she is. I would love for you to just stay with her here for a second. Just imagining her, seeing her, and in whatever way feels good to you. letting her know, I'm not going anywhere. I'm with you. I've got you. Even if everyone leaves because you get so big, I want you to be big. I'm right here with you.
Hmm. Yeah, it's like, we have like these like parts through the ages of like, I can see like me on stage, like in The Wizard of Oz, like in a lead role. And like, I can see myself like going to the airport in an outfit and my boyfriend saying something. And like all these moments when I decided, like, okay, to keep the connection, I'm going to just turn that off, turn that off. She doesn't want to turn it off, Hannah. Like, I've got 4 signs in Leo. I'm not supposed to turn it off.
And doing so is a disservice to everyone. Let's play on your 2 right there. You turn it off, it's a disservice to everyone around you.
She's got the Enneagram hack. She's hacked into my brain. Don't make it about me. I can't do it for me, but
No, it's not about you.
uh,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
yeah, as you say that, like there's like this like fire in my belly, like almost this feeling of like hunger, but it's like the fire of like aliveness that I feel growing. And it's like my aliveness before has been like, okay, I'll have my sexual aliveness or I'll have my like professional aliveness. And I don't really let them mix. But it's like, let's be real. Like, I'm turned on right now. Like, I'm turned on when I'm doing my work. Like, it's erotic to be in connection with that. So that feels like really good. And like, there's like a lot of like desire to let myself be in that, which feels really good.
Mm.
Mm.
I would love if you could cultivate a little bit more of that energy just with a little hip movement, a little hip circling. If you want to sway back and forth a little bit or do a little snaky spine action, just adding a little movement to just get some of that energy, moving some of that turn on energy in the rest of your body. Yes.
You should know, Hannah, that before this podcast, I want everyone to know, like, this is before this podcast for like 10 minutes. I just put on that song that's like, all your ladies pop your pussy like this. Do it good. I just like that song for like 10 minutes. And my partner and my friend were like, oh my God, Usha's on one. But it's like, that's the energy I came into this with. And now I'm like feeling that again. And it feels so good.
Your sexual aliveness is no different than your joy, no different than your turn on, no different than your free self expression, no different than your creativity. They are all the same. They are all coming from the same place, which is the most pure expression of your aliveness,
Mhm.
truly. And so I really want to just give you permission to let that be as big as it wants to be. Because when you're really tuned into it, I would ask you this. Is there an image that you have of your sexually expressed self that somehow seems like she's bad or wrong? Like what part of that, like if you turn her volume all the way up, if you said the most sexual Usha, like, is there some part of her that feels bad and you want to hide her?
So as I like go into that, there's like a big fear of my appetite, and when I was like going through your content, I was like, okay, like there's a lot of stuff for like women who don't have libido, and we'll get to that. But it's like, I've never been that in my life, like other than when I was postpartum and my hormones changed so much. It's like, I have always had a huge sexual appetite. And that has been very intimidating for male partners. That has been shamed by male partners. That has been something that has like gotten me into situations where I wish I wouldn't have explored that, or my fear of like, can I just be with one partner? Like, it's like, so there's a lot of feeling of like, if I lean into that, I don't know where it stops. And again, that feeling of like, she's going to ruin everything. Like, she's going to ruin relationships. And so it's like, it's not that she's bad. It's that her appetite and her desire to explore is like, she's so curious. And that curiosity is what killed the cat. I'm like, I don't want to be the dead cat.
Okay, I want to give you this analogy. And this is this is how sexual repression turns into more shame and pain. Um if you what happens if you have the most delicious chocolate cake in the entire world and you put it in your freezer and you tell yourself you're not allowed to have that chocolate cake?
Literally become obsessed.
You can't stop thinking about it. The appetite actually grows.
Mm.
The more you tell yourself, you can't have this, it's bad, it's wrong, you have to put it over here, you have to put it out of sight, it actually becomes more appealing and gets bigger in the repression of it. This is why porn addictions get out of control. It's why basically all addiction is just repressed emotion coming out sideways. And so guilt and shame specifically are two repressed emotions that most often come out in addiction. Shame the most of all. And so I would encourage you to just keep that in mind, that like when you open the door to her, when you give her space to express, when you give that aspect of yourself more permission, actually the draw becomes less, because it's more like, oh yeah, that chocolate cake's on the counter every day, you can have as much as you want. It loses its appeal, it loses the pull and the obsession and the can't stop thinking about it and how big it is in your mind. It just becomes, oh, this is just another everyday thing that I walk past every day, no problem, and I can have it if I want and it's all good. And so even though maybe it's a little bit scary to think about opening Pandora's box in that way, what I would start with is giving yourself containers of space and time that are a little bit bigger than what you have right now to explore that curiosity and start pushing that edge a little bit more into a place where your nervous system can handle it and that part of you can have more places to play. You're already doing it right now by being in this conversation.
Live revealing of Usha's sexual shame to the world. But thank you for saying that. And what comes up for me, and I feel a little bit of activation saying this because I've shared a lot of these stories with students who come on to work with me, because there's like that reciprocity of like, okay, now you're in the women wellness world, right? And so there's definitely an edge here of like saying it publicly. Anyone can listen to this podcast, but I want to name it because there is a big internalization of shame around experiences where I was sexually violated, and a feeling of like, if I didn't have such a big curiosity, or if I was more shut down sexually, then I wouldn't have gotten myself into those situations. I know logically that's not true. But what happens in my system is like, yes, 90% of me wants to expand. It's like, I'll eat that cake every day. I love chocolate cake, like flourless chocolate cake, give it to me every day. But then there's 10% of me that's like, but how will you keep yourself safe? Because shame is what keeps you in line, and shame is what keeps you safe. And that's kind of, Hannah, like my story. Like, I was promiscuous, quote unquote, on a sense. And then I had some really bad experiences. And then as a result, I like really shut down, and I took time to heal and did it consciously. But honestly, like, I also cut it off to try and keep myself safe. So for women who have that past sexual trauma, who our boundaries have been violated, like, how do we hold that and not push away those experiences while still also exploring and getting to know those sides of us?
Well, I just want to thank you for sharing that first and foremost. I think that's super brave to share that expression. And one, I'm wondering if in the healing work that you did, if you did some self-forgiveness work with those past versions of yourself at all?
Hmm. I think it's like, God, I've tried so many different things. Have I tried to just like forgive myself? I don't know if that's been like just like something that I've sat down and been like, I'm gonna forgive those past versions of myself. I think because there's such a resistance. It's like in a culture that blames women so much for violence against us, my like protector parts get a little bit like, like hair standing up of like, well, why would I forgive myself? It wasn't my fault. I was the victim. And yet I do blame myself a lot and have internalized a lot of the shame and carried around kind of this like layer of protection to try to make sure that doesn't happen again. Because in our world, it's like the new age spiritual culture, it's like, I think some sick part of me is like, you attracted this, and I
100%.
I hate to admit that. I hate to admit that because I literally teach how toxic that is. And yet that kind of programming is so insidious in a culture that like blames women anyway.
I think even if you didn't live in a culture that blamed women and you didn't have the spiritual programming of the world of law of attraction or whatever, it's really natural to blame ourselves for negative experiences that we had in the past because that's a very valid and very natural way to learn to keep ourselves safe. To say, okay, that was a really painful situation. I never want to experience that again. So, what I'm going to do so that I do not experience that again is I'm going to punish myself relentlessly and not allow myself to go anywhere near anything that looks like that.
You got the Catholic girl on the head. It's like, I'll just keep punishing myself for the rest of my life so that nothing bad
Hmm.
happens and I'll live in a prison of my own design. Even though
Yes.
I'm not fully alive, at least I'm safe.
Exactly. And so the forgiveness is not about blame and it's not about because you did something wrong. It's the forgiveness is you choosing to free yourself from the punishment and say, actually, I'm sorry that I've been blaming you for this for so long. And I'm sorry that I've been punishing you for this for so long. You were doing the best that you could with the tools that you had at that time. And we did get hurt. And I forgive you. I release you from punishment. You don't have to carry that anymore.
Mm. Yeah, that's just like, I remember, I do like IFS, internal family systems therapy, like every week. And I remember telling my therapist of some of my experiences and how much shame I had. And she was like, and you were just exploring. And that sounds like a really natural thing for you to do at that age. And as you were saying that, I just kind of got that same feeling of like, oh my God, like there's so much freedom when I release myself from the shackles of my own shame. And there's so much. It's like I can actually feel right now. It's like this feeling of I'm taking off like 100 pound, like 50 kilo backpack. Like I'm just taking it off. And I've been carrying it around thinking that like this thing is going to keep me safe when it's just like kept me half alive.
Yeah, totally. And the best part about taking that off is like you can actually go back to your past self and go, hey, what do we actually really want to learn from these situations? Instead of beating myself up or punishing me about myself about this, there was something about that situation that didn't feel good for us. So instead of blaming or shaming or punishing about this, let's look at it and say, okay, there was something about this that didn't work for us. Let's actually take a lesson from it so that I can protect myself going forward. I can honor that experience and honor my past self by taking the lesson from her and saying, okay, for me to actually feel safe in a situation going forward, what would need to be true so I can honor her boundaries and honor my boundaries and honor the part of me that wants to explore and have both be honored in that moving forward.
I love that. And it's like, you know, when I'm so in the shame and so in those like young parts that are like, you're bad, you're disgusting, you know, you did this, all of those things. It's like, I can't be in the adult parts that are discerning. I can't be in the parts that are like, let's learn from this. It's like, it's so black and white when you're in those really young parts. And so, yeah, that's so powerful. Hannah, thank you so much.
You're so welcome. You're killing it right now. This is great. This is such good content.
Like, do I get an A plus? Do I get a gold star?
You are being the best student right now to this. It's so good.
It's
so good.
so powerful to have these conversations. And like, I want to bring it into like women who have like suddenly experienced like a shift in their desire for sex. I actually like just had a session before this with one of my clients who it's like something emotional happened and then she shifted. Like her desire for sex went down. And for women, I noticed that happens so much. Like it happened for me with my daughter's father. Like when our relationship emotionally started to get disconnected, my libido just plummeted. And it was during postpartum and all those things. But it's like, can you speak to that kind of emotional relationship to sex that women have? Because I think a lot of us aren't actually really aware of it.
100%. So the way that libido defined as just like desire for sex is generally what libido means. It's like how much you want to have sex. And to have libido or to feel desire, it is based on reward. So unlike hunger, thirst, sleep, which are drives, which we have this like spontaneous urge for to survive, sex is not a drive. It's a reward system. We have desire because this thing that we're doing is incentivizing to us in some way. And most of those incentives are unconscious. Like a lot of it is for men specifically. They push this button, it feels good, they get pleasure, and they want to have sex again, right? Like there's an immediate physical reward and anticipation that that reward will happen again based on past experiences that they've had. So, and on the other side, for a lot of women, the reward, because of what I was saying before, where a lot of times we don't necessarily feel pleasure, physical pleasure from sex, the rewards that we're getting from sex are often things like security in the relationship, emotional validation, feeling like our partner loves us more afterwards or appreciates us more afterwards, feeling more emotionally connected or synced up or on the same page. And so the rewards that we're looking to get from sex often are slightly different than the rewards that men are looking to get from sex because the way that we're having sex doesn't give us quite the same amount of physical pleasure. So that's the first place I would start for women who have a sudden change in the amount of desire they feel for sex, is to look at, when I had a lot of desire for sex, what were the rewards that I was getting out of the experience? And then when I don't feel a lot of desire for sex now, what is different now? Am I getting, for example, am I getting a lot more emotional connection in the relationship now? And so I don't need sex to fulfill that reward. That's a lot of what happens in long-term relationships, where at the beginning, they want the security, the validation, the approval, the emotional connection. And then as the relationship becomes closer and closer, they don't need that from sex anymore because they're getting a lot of emotional connection otherwise in the relationship. Or vice versa, in some situations, maybe like in yours, when the emotional connection isn't there, maybe you knew that sex also wasn't necessarily going to give you that emotional connection or wasn't going to give you that pleasure. Like, why would you do it if you're not going to get the reward from it?
Thank you for naming that. And, it brings me to this question of like, what do you do when your libido is really mismatched with your partner's? So it's like I've been in relationships actually like often. I'm in relationships where I'm the partner with the higher libido. And it's like men are like some of them, like my partners have been scared of me. And I'm like, you should be scared, but just kidding. But it's like they're like intimidated. Like, how am I actually going to please her? Which I'm sure for a man who really wants to provide is a scary feeling. And then there's also like, it's really hard for me, as I said, 4 signs in Leo. And also, it's like when you grow up, one of the things that I was taught is like men only want one thing, right? And I know now with all my healing work, that's not true, but it's still very biological. So when my partner isn't in the mood or like isn't ready and I am, and I'm like a beautiful woman, it's like, very rarely in my life as a beautiful woman have I ever been turned down for sex, let alone by someone who like says that they love me so much and want to spend their life with me, right? So it's like, how do you work with that? Because I think that mismatch in libido happens a lot.
80% of couples.
Wow. God, we're in for a ride.
Yes. 80% of couples will experience at least some phase of mismatched libido throughout their relationship. It may be the entire time. It may be a portion of the time, like, for example, postpartum, or there's a loss and there's a lot of grief, or there's some kind of physical change or something like, or a period of anxiety or depression, or a big life transition. But it's 80% of couples will experience this at some point in their relationship. So first thing is just like normalizing it and not freaking out and thinking that like this is the end of my relationship. Like first and foremost, being like, actually, wait a second. The libido fairy said this is normal. There's nothing wrong here. There's opportunity here for so much collaboration and self-learning and self-growth on both sides. So typically what I see as far as like what needs to happen to get through a phase like this is, one, decide together with your partner, have a conversation about what sex means to you in the relationship. What does sex mean to you personally? How do you interpret it? What is the value of it? What's the reward you're getting out of it? And then what does this mean for our relationship? How do we want sex to be a part of our relationship, and what importance do we place on it as far as need to prioritize it or not? Then having a conversation about minimums and ideals. So like, okay, in a perfect world, in an ideal world, how much sex would we be having if we were both fully resourced and we both had all the energy and neither of us was going through any specific trauma at any point in time? And like, what would perfect world sex life between us look like? Frequency, type of sex, whatever. And then on the flip side, in our most disconnected time, or in a time where one of us is in crisis, what is the absolute bare minimum of sexual interaction that we need to have with each other to make sure that we still feel like we're on the same page as a couple? What does that look like for us? And deciding together without looking at what other people are doing, but actually collaborating with each other. What is the minimum of that looks like? And let's be committed to that. And it has to be something that you can say, even at my lowest, I am committed to this in this relationship. So don't commit to something that you don't actually feel like you can do. And then beyond that, things that are really, really helpful for this are having an intimacy menu. So having a range, like literally sitting down with your partner and then writing down, what are all of the ways that we feel intimately connected to each other, sexually aroused by each other, turned on by each other, that we feel sexually recognized by each other, and write all of those down onto a menu that we can choose from. And so in times when maybe I am a 10 out of 10, really want to have sex right now, and you're at a 2, let's pull out the menu and choose some items from there that would feel like they're not pushing the boundaries of the 2, but they're still meeting that desire of the 10. That's why having a range of activities would be really valuable. On the personal, I've got so much for this. On the
I'm going to get on the phone and start writing this down.
You have the recording. So, on the inner work portion of it, because there is personal development work to be done on both sides of this. Because in a mismatched dynamic like that, it can really easily start to feel like the person who has a higher desire feels like they're too much, feels like they're imposing their will, feels like they're a burden to the other person, and like you're going to leave me because I'm too much for you. On the other side, same feelings of abandonment and fear of abandonment are happening, but that person that is a lower libido partner will probably start to feel like they're not enough. They'll start to feel pressure and guilt and a sense, and there's resentment that can really build up on both sides if only if both people are not expressing their needs and boundaries and desires. So the personal development work on each side, so ripe for opportunity, right? Like you notice, oh, my too much patterns coming up. How can I meet myself there and love myself there and encourage my desire without making my partner wrong or making them have to do what I want to feel fulfilled? And then on the opposite, lower libido partner side, like, oh, this part of me that feels like I'm not enough and that I have to bend my will to my partner. How can I not choose to not collapse? How can I choose to love myself there? Know that I'm enough no matter what, that I'm valuable and secure in this relationship, even if I don't meet my partner's needs and demands. And so there's just like, oh, so much juicy stuff that can happen in that dynamic that's super, super healing on both sides.
And is this like the same, like for all like women listening, like we go through cycles, right? So our libido changes depending on our hormones. And I can think about so many partners are blindsided by the hormonal change that comes with being a parent. Like if men are co-sleeping with their children, their testosterone lowers. Like women our estrogen declines like so much percentages after like 48 hours after birth. Like it's literally insane the hormonal shifts that both partners go through. And so how can this is this a preemptive conversation that people can have? Because I've noticed that a lot of partners struggle because the Western medical world thinks like postpartum is 6 weeks, when in reality, like for me, I really only got my sense of self back 2 years postpartum, my full sexual desire like 3 years postpartum. And luckily, I'm in this field of work, so I was like ready for that. But so many women I work with and their partners get blindsided by that.
Absolutely. I actually say 9 months in, 9 months out.
Yeah.
Like you're not going to actually start to even resemble yourself until almost a year after the actual delivery of your baby. And never again exactly the same as you were before.
No.
But I would 100% recommend having these kinds of conversations. If you haven't had kids yet, have the conversations before you have kids, and then know that all of your plans will probably go to shit anyway, and you won't have any idea what you're doing. But having like a conversation about really what's the bare minimum for us, what does that look like, and having an intimacy menu where you have so many options ranging from like as low intensity as just like eye gazing, lying side by side, all the way to, swinging from a chandelier on a sex swing or whatever turns you on, right? The more options you have, the better off you are, especially in seasons that are really unpredictable, like postpartum. Like you can have all of the plans in the world, but you just have no idea how birth is going to go. You have no idea how your postpartum is going to be. It's different for everyone. And so the more you can prepare your relationship with options to stay connected intimately to your partner, the better off you're going to be, because then in the moment you can say, well, I'm not up for this, but I have the capacity for this. And having that option is really important.
Thank you. And I'm thinking about the women who, so many perimenopausal women come to me, or postmenopausal women. And it's like, as your estrogen starts to decline, tissues start to change, like pleasure starts to change, lubrication starts to change. And I've kind of tracked this widely accepted social narrative, which is that as you age, your libido declines. And I've had older women in my courses, like, jokingly say, like, well, I'm not as like hungry as you or vivacious as you, like, I'm a lot older. And then I've also like met some older women who've got way more aliveness than me. And I'm like, can I be you when I'm 70? Like, yes, that's the direction I want to go. And so tell me about that, Hannah. Like, does libido have to decline as we age? Like, what is that kind of narrative that so many women have bought into and been sold, that like you get old and then you just dry up and you don't want sex anymore? And it's like, of course we're afraid of aging if that's the picture that's being painted.
For sure. I mean, I think that obviously there are physical changes that happen. There are hormonal changes that happen. Like, that is indisputable. Lubrication changes, all of the tissue changes, everything you just described is accurate. And if you can keep in mind what I described earlier about desire being something that is linked to reward, you can also frame it in this context of when, as I'm aging, the rewards that I'm getting from sex will change.
Mm.
And I get to define what that is. What do I want the rewards from sex to be, both with myself and with a partner? Do I want orgasms to be the main reward that I get from sex? Or do I want playfulness to be the reward I get from sex? Or freedom, or self-expression, or taboo kinky exploration, or liberation, or connection, or sensuality, or whatever? Like, you can choose for yourself how those rewards change, and then scope your sexual expression to match what you want the rewards to be. So if orgasm really was the only goal of sex, then you could just hang out with a vibrator and get yourself off and done, good to go. Like, that is, if that's all you're looking for, then great. And if you're looking for something different, then think about what would sex have to look like for me to be getting that reward specifically. And those rewards, a lot of the rewards are unlimited, and many of them are not limited even by your physical body.
Hmm. And so it's like, I noticed this difference. Like, one of my teachers, Allison Armstrong, she says that, like, for men, sex is like a need, like similar to sleep or eating. It's like very urgent. And as for women, like, which is obviously a generalization, but this is based on her research, like, we often want sex for the feeling of being desired, for the feeling of being loved, for the feeling of being in connection. And if you think about it, it's like, in old times, it's like if we had sex with a man, perhaps you would get pregnant. And of course, so we want to be loved, protected, provided for by him. Like, we're really bonding as women when we have sex with someone. And so, how do we kind of like bring in the conversation of slowing it down? Because what I know with arousal is that men take 1 to 2 minutes to reach peak physical arousal, whereas women's tissues take 35 to 40 minutes. And so if men are so focused on procreation and sharing their seed and orgasming, like, how can we bring some slowness into it? Because women need foreplay, or let me just speak for myself. I need foreplay and my tissues need it too. And so how do we kind of add that into the conversation? Because I think a lot of women are feeling like the sex is lackluster because it goes so fast.
I would first explain the anatomy to your partner.
Mm.
I think it's really, really valuable that your partner knows that it's not just about, I want more time with you. I think like there's something about the logic of knowing that literally my vagina is widening and lengthening in size. Blood flow is increasing to my tissues so that this feels more pleasurable for me. I am naturally lubricating so that I don't tear. And micro tears in my vagina, if I get them, if it hurts to pee after sex, it means that I have micro tears in my vagina and my vulva. And if there are micro tears, it means that scar tissue is going to form and sex will be less pleasurable for me. I need time to be naturally lubricated, and I will have a better experience of this sex because of the changes happening in my body. And when I have a better experience of sex, I will be more likely to want to have sex with you in the future. Like, if you just lay that out,
Or
hard facts.
podcast at about 55 minutes, pull up and play the recording, and she can see it for you.
And send it to him. Say 55 minutes, listen to this podcast. I will explain it for you. You can let me do it. I think an understanding of the anatomy can be really, really helpful to get on the same page. And then apart from that, I always think about this frame of like, let's get on the same team with a mutual goal. So like, the goal of this for us, right? Like, what is the goal of sex for us? Is it for us to both have an orgasm, or is it for us to have an experience that's so good that we both want to come back for this? Is it to have an experience that is fun and pleasurable? Again, coming back to the motivation and reward. So if you can talk to your partner about what is the goal of this for us? Now, if the goal is mutual pleasure and enjoyment and us wanting to come back to this experience together, then we don't want to get through this as fast as possible. We want to enjoy it. We want to savor it. We want to play. We want to be synced up and connected. And any time that either of us feels like we're not locked in this presence together, we need to pause and reset because something's not right here. Or we need to really slow down so we can get back on the same page. When the rhythm's off, it does not feel good, I think, for anyone in there. So I think really when you have the conversation, putting the end in mind, dangling the carrot of like, hey, you want me to have more sex with you, right? After this is not like the only time you want me to have sex with you, right? Okay. So if you want me to want to have more sex with you, this is what needs to happen in this experience.
A true expert, Hannah's like, explain it logically and then dangle the carrot. It's like, wow, we're going to have another conversation. This is so good. Genius. So, Hannah, one thing that I've noticed that, a lot of couples do with mismatched libido, or like what men will do during postpartum, or just in general, that this area, I think there's so much binary, like especially in the community of like men's work, women's work. So porn. It's like there's a lot of men's work that's like, if you watch porn, like you are this and you are that. And then there's like people who watch porn like so many times a day. And like I like to break through the binary and kind of talk about it. And so what do you think about porn? Like, what have you seen the effect that porn has on couples? Because what I noticed is when I watch porn, it's really hard for me to be present with my partner, or I will use porn and the images that I've seen in porn. And specifically for me, it's not just images, it's like power dynamic, like the power play, like the different situations that turn me on. I'll like think about them while being with my partner. And it feels like I'm not even like really in my body sometimes when I'm doing that. And so then when I don't watch porn, like I feel a lot more present. And so what do you think about that? What do you have to add to the conversation?
I think that anything can be a medicine or a poison.
Mm.
It depends on the intention and the dosage. And so the same is, in my opinion, is true for porn. I think that if you approach porn from the lens of like, I am using this to escape, I'm using this to quickly get off, I'm using this to, I'm not getting enough sex from my partner. And so I just want to like push this button over and over and over. It can really quickly snowball into something that feels much more out of control than, hey, I want to like, let's you and I together watch a couple videos and get turned on by it and then talk about what we just watched and like how sexy it is and use it as a tool for our relationship to have more connection. Or there's a bunch of really great educational porn out there too. Like I want to learn how to squirt. So let's go watch some videos, some educational porn videos on how I can learn how to squirt. They're very sexy videos, but they also are teaching me how to do this with my partner. So one, I think it's all about intention and dosage, but then what you're describing as far as fantasy, I think that's another conversation, which is separate, which is The brain is the largest sex organ. Our minds are so powerful. Our imaginations are so epic at layering context on top of any situation that we're in, adding meaning, adding context, which can be a very arousing context that meaning that we overlay in the scenario. That's why power dynamics, role play, even though they're not real, our imagination can create this like three-dimensional sensory experience, which stimulates our emotions as much as it stimulates our bodies. It's just epic. So I want to like, for anyone that feels like they're imagining a scenario when they're having sex with their partner and feels like that's bad or wrong or shameful, I want to like remove that and let you like just give people permission to do that, because it's like really fun and really sexy and can be super arousing and a turn on. My challenge to you, if it feels like it's a secret, is to talk to your partner about it. Let them know, let them in on the secret so that they can play with you in that space. So if, for example, you're really turned on by a power dynamic or by threesomes or something that's not happening in your space, tell your partner about it and then ask them to add to the imaginatory effects. So, for example, if you're really into threesomes, have them put a mask on you and have your partner say like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe she's touching you right there." And then they can run their fingers up the side of you, but you can be imagining it's someone else's hand and they can be in on it with you. Like there's a lot of opportunity for connection in it and using your imagination to enhance the experience. So again, like use it as a amazing tool that it is.
I'm like, well, I've got some things to do tonight with my boyfriend. So this like brings me into this idea of like of something that I heard once, which I don't even know if it's true, but if I think about the power dynamics that turn me on, or I think about my kind of kinky side, it's like this kind of threshold of like areas where there's the potential for pain, there's the potential for danger, or maybe even experiences that I have experienced in my life that I'm now playing out. And so I learned once from a teacher that sometimes we fetishize our trauma as a way to heal it. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I've noticed that a lot with myself and with some of the women that I've worked.
So healing first, like description a little bit about what trauma is. It is overlaying memories into a present context. And then your body is having a reaction to the overlay of a memory in present day context. And so if the overlay, say there's like the trigger or the stimulus that comes in the present day context, and that trigger or stimulus reminds you of a past experience that was very negative for you that you wanted to avoid or run away from, your body will start preparing to respond to the present day stimulus the same as it would have in the past. Now, healing trauma, or what that is essentially rewiring your body to respond to a present day stimulus in a way that's different than the traumatized response, or the response as if this present moment is a danger. Where kink can come into this, which is really beautiful, is there's a couple ways that you can like rewire trauma. One, which is what a lot of psychotherapy does. You go back into the memory, you kind of think or talk through past experiences, and you try to change the meaning of those past experiences internally so that when you're faced with a similar situation in the now, you don't have the same physiological response to it. But the other way that you can heal it is by introducing the stimulus in a slightly different context so that you can create a new layer of meaning on top of it. So it's more like exposure therapy. So in kink, what you can do if you have some types, and I wouldn't recommend people do this unless it's like a really, really safe container with a very experienced practitioner or a sex worker that has a lot of training on how to do this. Preface. Don't just go out and like reenact your trauma is what I'm saying.
We are not liable for it.
The power is essentially you take maybe an experience in which you felt powerless or in which you felt like you didn't have control. You can recreate to some degree a similar experience in a context where you do have control and you have the ability to say no or say yes, and there's safety and consent in that space. You can create a new meaning, a new layer of experience over top of that past experience that releases some of that past meaning, essentially. So you can say, okay, I was really out of control in this situation where I was assaulted. Well, I'm going to recreate a situation where it's going to mimic assault, but halfway through, I'm going to say my safe word, and the person's going to stop, and then I'm going to ask them to pleasure me and have a completely new experience of control and pleasure mixed with that past negative connotation and rewire that association in my brain. It's like how that is constructed.
I love that. And like, it brings me to this question, healing past experiences through sex in safe containers of relationships. Like with my current partner, I've had a lot of past experiences where my, boundaries were violated or memories from the past come up through really beautiful, intimate, safe sex. And it feels like beautiful, and also is like, well, geez, I didn't know so much would come up right now. You didn't do this to me, but so much is coming out. And luckily I do what I do, so it's not confusing, but sometimes it is like a lot that needs to be unpacked and processed after. And so what happens when we're in a safe container with a partner? Because I've noticed a lot of stuff comes out.
What do you mean what happens? I mean, it's like our body, our nervous system relaxes enough that like there's something inside that goes, oh, okay. Like this is a place where I don't have to do the protector wall so hard. I don't have to put the layers up as hard. It may also be a reminder of familial relationships where some of our earliest wounding happened. So like as soon as we start associating our partner with, this is the person I want to be with for the rest of my life, they are my life partner, they are my family, and we start to make that like mating pair bond, mating for life, there's associations of kin that come up, like you are my family. And then all of that stuff, any of the associations you have with family, father, mother wounds, all of that is lovingly projected onto this person. So you can work it out with them.
So fun, as my therapist would say. And this is just showing you where you need more healing. I'm like, great. Thanks a lot. It's so fun. But, everyone listening, it's like we're cycle breakers. Like we're strapped in, we're ready. And I think a lot of times it can be a little bit disconcerting of like, wow, I didn't know that all of this was going to come up. And yet it can be such a beautiful container for that to be held in a way that maybe it wasn't held. And for us to show ourselves, I know for me, like having so much shame growing up Catholic, like there's a really big unshaming that comes from just being seen in things that I've gone through. It's like just having another nervous system to hold that with me is so powerful and integrating. So Hannah, thank you so much. Like I'm already like, I'm gonna meet Hannah one day. Like I don't know how, but like I'm gonna go to a dance class with her with knee pads on. Like Christina's I know it. Like it's gonna happen. And thank you so much. How can women work with you? Because you're so knowledgeable, clear, and also practical. Like I love the practical knowledge that you brought into this conversation that can be so intimidating to have, not just in the public eye, but even in the comfort of your own home. It's like sex is very scary for some of us to talk about. It's very shame. So thank you for the clarity you brought. And how can women work with you more?
I appreciate the reflections so much. This has been so much fun. And if you want to find my work and get into my world, the best ways to come in are really through my social media. I give a lot away for free, a lot of tools, guides, resources. I have my own podcast. So just search the Libido Fairy and you'll find me on Instagram primarily. I'm on YouTube, Libido Fairy podcast. That's where I would start, and you'll find what you need.
Oh,
Go that route.
she's got great reels. Great.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Hannah, for your time. I really appreciate it. This was such a rich and fun conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the Women Wellness Podcast. If this episode touched you in some way, it would mean so much if you could subscribe and download this episode. If you want to learn more about my work, you can go to womenwellness.com or come say hi on Instagram, send me a message, and tell me what you loved about the show.